Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the last session here of the Dayton Startup Week Defense Innovation Track. Appreciate everybody coming back and joining us here for this 2 o'clock session. We're going to be having Mr. Bill Harrison from the Air Force Research Laboratories Small Business Directorate joining us here in a minute. And I just want to remind everybody that at 3 o'clock, we'll have the T3 Accelerator Demo Day, followed by a networking event at 5 o'clock. So please stick around for those events as well. So up next, got the privilege of introducing someone that really probably doesn't need much introduction in the Dayton region, Mr. Bill Harrison. He's the director of the Air Force Research Lab's Small Business Office. And he has done a number of things that I think he's going to talk about over the last couple of years in that role, influencing and helping to build the local ecosystem of startups. So we're going to have him talk a little bit. I think a big thing to note is that Bill's actually going to be retiring next week, and so this is one of the last opportunities for him to get out and share what he's been doing and what the Air Force Research Labs is doing and where it's going. So we're really honored to have Bill join us today, and please feel free to post your questions in the app. Post your questions there. I'll come back in a little bit and we'll do a Q&A session with Bill. So thank you, and I'm going to turn it over to Bill now.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Really appreciate the opportunity to kind of one of my last acts as the Director of Small Business to address you. We have a lot of great programs in small business. Sorry about that. Hang on. Sometimes silencing a phone just doesn't work, apparently. I apologize for that. So, hey, I want to tell you about the great programs we have with the Air Force Research Lab and small business. AFRL is incredibly small business friendly. We really want the innovation for small entrepreneurial companies, and we really want those partnerships to work with our researchers in the lab. To put it in perspective, last year, the Air Force Research Lab spent $2.1 billion with small business. And in looking at last month's number, we're on track to do about the same this year. We're already at 1.9 billion. Now, of that, 500 million is the Small Business Innovative Research Program, the SBIR program. Again, another great opportunity to work with researchers not only in AFRL but across the Air Force and really bring those technologies in. As you're probably aware, the Air Force Research Lab is looking for quite a wide range of technologies, things such as materials and manufacturing, cyber, AI, air vehicles and propulsion and power systems, directed energy, rockets, rocket motors, space vehicles, on and on. And we also have a group in Arlington, Virginia, the Air Force Office of Scientific Research, that does very fundamental research with academia. So if you're a company and you have any sort of technology, AFRL is probably very interested in working with you. How we communicate our needs is usually through broad area announcements. They're posted out on Beta SAM. But one of the things we've done with our partners at the Wright Brothers Institute, who have set up our Small Business Hub, is we have a 24/7 connect at www.afrlsbhub.com. If you go out there, there is an icon, and you can click to it to find solicitations. And with an early partnership with GSA's 18F and now a small business, we actually have a Google-like interface that crawls Beta SAM and Gov grants. We're trying to make it as easy as it can to find those solicitations. And once you get out on the Google-like interface, you can use Boolean strings, and you can also check it every day. In fact, that's what I kind of recommend is there's new opportunities across the Air Force. When you go out there, you may also see opportunities in the Army and the Navy. They're looking for great technologies too. So if you're a Dayton company or a Dayton startup, we like you to think Air Force first, but don't be shy to look at what other agencies are posting and submit proposals. One word of advice on all proposals is number one, read the instructions. I have counseled companies who have failed to heed that simple advice and not done well in a solicitation that's gone out. So one sort of piece of wisdom in every solicitation, read the instructions, follow them carefully, make sure you're fully registered, make sure you've answered and provided all the information. That is, an easy first step for you to start working with us. Now, another way we do business in the Air Force and in AFRL is we use other transaction authority consortia. And again, out on AFRL SB Hub.com, there's a direct link to consortia. Across the Department of Defense, there's 26 of them. The Air Force uses 3 of them pretty extensively. One that's on cyber with SOSIC out of Rome, in our group out of Rome. Another one is the new AI consortium led by Ohio University. And then if you're working in the munitions area, they use one of the Army consortias, DOTC. But also take a look at some of the others. The Army and the Navy tend to use consortia-based OTs broader than the Air Force. Again, another great way to find opportunities. One thing with the consortium, most of them, you have to be a member of the consortium to be able to bid on the work. The reason they're set up is to make it as easy as possible to find technology and get on contract quickly. Another part of my portfolio is the Air Force SBIR SITR program, Small Business Innovative Research Program. It really is a great way for startups and folks that have never worked with us, or if you've worked with us in the past and you still have a great technology, to look for our solicitations. We do 3 solicitations a year. We're now doing them in partnership with AFWorks. And if you sat on some of the other sessions, you're probably aware that AFWorks is now part of AFRL and will be a continuing partner in their ventures with the SBIR program. One of the things that they've brought to the table that is an opportunity is open topics. Another is with our SBIR Center of Excellence, we have streamlined a lot of processes. We've made it much more simple to provide the information that we're looking for in the solicitation with short proposals and slide decks, some of those leading to pitch days that have been very successful. And then our SBIR COE contract has really significantly reduced the timeline to get on contract. Again, a really great program there. The STTR program, a little bit of a confusing name because it's Small Business Technology Transfer Program, is really the SBIR program with the requirement that at least 30% of the work be accomplished by academia or a not-for-profit. Now, we've got a really big campaign going on using one of our partnership intermediaries, Apex, to really help people understand the STTR program, especially partnerships in academia. For the business community, this is something you really ought to consider, even if you've just done the basic SBIRs with us. One is finding a partner in the universities. Many universities have phenomenal laboratory capabilities that most startups and small businesses could never afford. That relationship, you could use those laboratory facilities. And having run a laboratory myself with very complicated and sophisticated equipment that, even though I ran it, some of it, my people probably wouldn't have let me actually touch the equipment. You need experts, and the professors and the students that are involved are those experts. And if this takes off and your company grows, this is a really good pipeline to talent. So highly encourage you to look at that. Here in Ohio, there's a number of research universities. If you're not in Ohio, that's fine. I'm a graduate of Purdue in Indiana, and I always, think highly of that school. Also an MIT grad, so over in Boston. We don't really care where the school is, just find the best one that's a partner, and please use those. So those are really good programs. Another piece of advice is networking. One of the things that we have been doing now for several years with our Small Business Hub and Innovation Center at 444 East 2nd Street is Collider events. And really encourage you to go out again to AFRL SB sign up for the Collider events. One of the good news and bad news stories of COVID is, for a while we had to shut them down because our Collider events were in person. We have reactivated and reinvigorated them. And like this event today, most are virtual, or all are virtual. And I think that's the wave of the future. It makes it easy. You can all sit home in your sweats and bunny slippers, and everybody can contribute. And we really encourage you to go to the Collider events. Jim Mason-Brink, phenomenal lead for that hub, has a whole bunch in series, and you can sign up and get notices. Lots of great opportunities there. In our partnerships, especially with companies that are licensing technology from us, and part of my portfolio is the Air Force Tech Transfer Transition Program. And one of the key elements of that is our ability to, or our processes to manage all the intellectual property of the Air Force in terms of patents. And we now have all the Air Force patents, as well as the Army patents and the Navy patents, out on a single website. Not only do they contain the patents, but they have short business descriptions. And that's through, you can get to it a couple of different ways. You can go out to techlinkcenter.org, or again, if you go to AFRLSBHub.com, there's an icon that'll link you right to our patents. We have made it easy in many cases where you can actually license those patents online. And if not, at TechLink and through all our partnership intermediaries, we have tech transfer specialists that can help you license those technologies. Another way to either boost your portfolio or just start, if you're a real startup and looking for a piece of intellectual property, a great way to work with us. Another thing that's in our toolbox with the Tech Transfer Transition Program is we can enter, or you as a company can enter into agreements with us in the Air Force. These are not contracts, so the government doesn't fund you, but sometimes you may want to work with us collaboratively. You may want to share data. You may want to run testing together. And that could be done through a cooperative research and development agreement called a CRADA. If you're with academia, you might want to enter into an educational partnership agreement. And another agreement that sometimes has been very helpful for industry is test agreements or test agreement authorities. So reach out to the AFRL or an Air Force Tech Transfer Transition team. They can help you with these kind of agreements. And we try to make it as easy as we can. Like any agreement with the Air Force, there are attorneys involved, and sometimes that's good on your side to have an attorney involved, especially when looking at intellectual property rights and all. But we've tried to make it as easy as possible for you to work with us in many different ways. We really are looking for a new generation of partnerships. Another part of my portfolio is a partnership that we've developed over the last couple of years. I have to thank Ryan Hellbach for getting the initial meetings together, and now we're really in full swing, and that's with the National Security Innovation Network. The National Security Innovation Network is OSD's innovation arm. We have a partnership where 9 and maybe 10, but I think the last one's not going to join us till after I retire. People work both for myself, or they'll work for the director of small business in AFRL, but they also work for Morgan Plummer, the director of the National Security Innovation Network. It brings together a whole lot of great programs. Our new chief entrepreneur, Sean Mahoney, manages a number of innovation programs with our researchers in the labs. You met Terry Cunningham, who works the EOP program, and sometimes his programs mesh and match nicely with Sean's. But we also have these new programs with Ensign and their team that spread across the US, and we're doing things such as challenge projects. We're doing hackathons. We're using a lot of the innovation tools, and another is tech accelerators. Parts of AFRL have been exploring and using tech accelerators now for 3 or 4 years. We're finding that a very beneficial way to get connected. Ensign also runs FedTech. You might have heard Ryan Jankor talk about FedTech. Again, in our partnership, these are great ways for startups to go through some of the processes to learn about business and doing business with us, getting contacts, and really we're looking at this as a way to bring new innovative companies to work with us and bring us technology in the Air Force. We have a lot of programs. We actively, the things I'm going to miss going into retirement is, I've spent years now and I love talking to people in companies. I learn something every time. Please continue doing that with the person that replaced me or people on my team, such as Anissa. We'd like to hear from you as to what's working, what's not working, what you're struggling with. Part of our role in small business is trying to make it easier to work with the government. I can tell you after 40 years, there is lots of bureaucracy. Even just to retire is a bureaucratic series of events. But we've got great people in the Small Business Directorate, great people in our partnership intermediaries like Wright Brothers Institute and Apex here in Dayton that are here and can help you through these processes. Don't be shy, ask questions, and we've got folks to help. Lots of great programs. Look for our solicitations, bid on them. This year was kind of also an interesting year because COVID canceled 2 big industry days. But something to look for next year is with AFRL and Dayton Defense, Right Dialogue with Industry. That is a great event to learn about the requirements of AFRL. Highly also encourage you to go to the Lifecycle Management Center, Lifecycle Industry Days, a great way to find customers for many of these technologies. I can't stress enough that part of making things really happen with us is networking. The more you network, the more you'll learn about our requirements, you'll learn who potential partners can be, and create more opportunities for you. So with that, I'll kind of sum up. We are small business friendly. I've had a great 6 years in this job. Our numbers are fantastic. I'm hoping we break the 2 billion mark again this year with small business, and really encourage you to keep working with my team and the new director when he or she comes on board. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Ryan for questions.
Hey, thank you, Bill. Definitely always good to hear updates of what AFRL is doing and how startups and small businesses can engage with the Air Force Research Lab and with the Air Force at large. So I think if you're good with it, we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A session here. For folks that are watching right now, feel free to put in some questions into the app. And we'll take those questions live and have Bill answer some of those. So Bill, maybe kind of to start things off, you've seen a lot of technologies throughout your career, both creating those individual technologies, but then as well in your current role, seeing the breadth of Air Force technologies. If you had to pick one technology, what is the one technology that you're really excited about?
So I'm going to pick two, okay? One is my historic role in the Air Force. I did a lot of work in jet fuels, was part of the teams that did the leadership on alternative fuels and getting them approved for use in not only the military fleets, but the commercial fleets. And there was a lot of great work that we are not resource limited by any means, whether they're biofuel based or fossil fuel based opportunity. And what I learned from that is the amazing amount of technology that's out there to be able to harness those resources. So near and dear to my heart, and I spent a lot of my career in fuels and energy across the board, not only uh, with the Air Force, but in the Office of Secretary of Defense. A lot of great things going on in fuels. The technology that right now has really piqued my interest, and I'm using that as part of our programs, is data analytics. Those that are working with me on data analytics know I am passionate about it. Using big data and using big data to help drive outcomes is really something that interests me. I think it's part of the future. And to do some of that, there's good AI backbones and great work going on in writing AI around that. So if I were to start my career all over again, might not choose chemical engineering. I might choose computer science or something that's related to data analytics. But hey, if those aren't your areas, don't fret. AFRL has people just as passionate with me, whether it's directed energy, materials, manufacturing, trusted electronics, cyber, on and on. So, don't feel left out. If you got a technology, we want to know about it.
That's excellent. And way to skirt around my question of just one technology.
That's right.
So
Hey, I'm an old fuels guy. I can't let that one hang.
That's good. That's good. So a question from the audience here. Phil, it's hard to know where to start, but what are your top three resources for companies that are just getting started? For those new startups that it may just be one person, they don't have a lot of time, and they just need three things to go get them started. What would you recommend they do?
One is I would reach out to organizations like here in Dayton, the Entrepreneur Center. They have tremendous resources. Scott Korndike has a great staff. They can help you think through what it takes to be a company. One of the things is if you listen to the EOP panel, whenever I talk to and interview people to go into EOP, I'd always ask them the question, are you all in? If you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to be a startup, you're all in, which means, the idea of a 40-hour week goes out the window at 60 to 70. You're going to borrow money from friends and family, and you're going to put everything you got into it to make it go. As you're going through that journey, folks, look at the Entrepreneur Center. Or if you're in other locations, there's other great organizations in Columbus, Cincinnati, and across the U.S. Really use those resources to think about a business. Um, Another great resource is if you want to work with the government, we have a great network of PTACs and in Ohio Development Centers. They can help you get all your registrations, get all the paperwork filed to be able to work with us. That is critical. Even if you're in the SBIR program, you've got to be registered in Beta SAMs. You got to have DUNS numbers, cage codes, things like that. The PTACs and the Ohio Development Centers are there to help you do that. Back to groups like the Entrepreneur Center, they have access to programs that the state of Ohio has um, that are really meant for startups and small businesses. One is the ESP program. It's really small, $100,000-ish types of money to help a business get off the ground. Scott and his team manage the fund here in Dayton. There are others around the state. And they also have linkages to the Third Frontier program, which is another set of programs to help businesses in Ohio through their TVSF grants. So again, there's some great contacts there to look at state mechanisms for grants. If you're in other places, some other states do have grant mechanisms. I know in New York, the state of New York has programs similar for small businesses. Some states also have matching funds that you can access for the SIBR program. So those are, pools of money kind of that you need to think about and look for. On the private side, there are a number of angel investors. We recently did an event with Queen City Angels. There's other angel networks in the region. They may be a good resource for capital. And then in some cases, you might really want to look at venture capital. And again, there's a number of venture capital firms in the region and across the country that may suit your purposes. So I think those are some of the things that I think are I would suggest. And then working with the government, again, our partnership intermediaries here locally, like Wright Brothers.
So Bill, with that question in mind, what do you think has been one big misstep that you see a lot of startups and small businesses take as they start to initially work with the Air Force? What's something that you kind of see a repetition that you would be able to share with folks so that they don't make that same mistake?
Well, one of the things I talk to companies about all the time is network and learn who your real Air Force customer is. Companies that are most successful learn that early. AFRL in general is a good catalyst. They're a good team of folks to work with on the science in the early stage, but you may need to find someone in Life Cycle Management Center or Space Missile Command or somewhere else in the Air Force that's really the end customer for some of these. And again, events such as the industry days are great for networking, collider events, and then also a lot of the professional societies, and we're really blessed here in Dayton with some great professional societies have events. Dayton Defense puts on great events, Women in Defense, AFCEA, Fast Rope, and others. Networking can really be helpful in finding out customers. The other is don't be afraid to be a subcontractor, especially in large programs. Many of the large programs in AFRL, but definitely in Lifecycle Management Center, you find there are teams of contractors that come together. So networking can help you find other partners for teaming. And again, that can really help you. Even if you're a small company, maybe a startup, maybe you've got that piece of technology or that special capability that in a subcontracting arrangement really can help you grow. And I've seen a lot of companies move from being a prime, say in the SIBR program, to being a subcontractor back and forth and use that as part of a growth strategy. In the end, though, it really is finding that Air Force customer, or in some cases, pivoting and going to the Army or the Navy. Again, I've seen some very successful transition of technology started in the Air Force that the fast path was on a Navy program or an Army program. So don't be shy in looking at all the Department of Defense.
So Bill, this next question is coming from the audience, and I think it may actually be tied to the question that you just answered there. But what's the best way for companies to get true, honest feedback on their proposals when it isn't selected for award, whether that be through the SBIR, STTR program, or as part of the BAAs that you talked about?
Let me start with BAAs first. The process that the teams go through for the selection of BAAs is really pretty rigorous. The teams have to do very good tech evals, and there should be documentation. Reach out to your contracting officer that you worked with. They should be able to give you a debrief. One thing to realize, in all the programs we have, it is very competitive. There are a lot of good companies that come in. I've seen some really good solicitations where the competition is fierce. Sometimes you wrote a good proposal, but it wasn't the one that really wowed from a technology standpoint or the way the solving the problem to the company that was awarded. But for BAAs and all, definitely work for your contracting officer. The SBIR program, as you know, has gone through a lot of change, a lot of it with brand new programs driven by AFWorks. There is and continues to be some learning pains of going fast, really opening up the aperture with open topics and things like that. If you have questions and need debriefs, again, reach out to the contracting officer that gave you the documentation. Reach out to the people in AFWorks. They can help you try to understand why you potentially didn't get a contract. Again, keep in mind it's very competitive. Definitely in the open topics, we get far more proposals than we have money to fund. So just remember it's a competitive space, but reach out to the contracting officer or to AFWorks on the SBIR, any SBIR questions.
Thank you, Bill. Definitely appreciate those answers and those insights. So I'm actually going to steal a question from the previous session because I really liked it. I thought it was good. What's been a major misstep that you've experienced over your career that turned out to be a fantastic learning opportunity? And what was it that you kind of took away from that and grew from that?
Well, I guess I've always been a believer in fail fast. I can't think of a major misstep. I could say I've tripped and fallen on my face a few times, and you pick yourself up. One is, and I'll kind of term this in terms of general advice. Spend time to listen. I have found that when you don't spend the time to listen to people, either are your customers or you're working with, or if there's a major requirement of the service, spend some time listening and asking questions. I have, like I say, I've tripped a few times because I didn't do that. I've never, let me say, had a catastrophic failure for that. Thank God. A few days left, so hopefully no more. But listen, ask questions. There is no such thing as a dumb question. Just ask and use and talk and learn as part of anything you're doing. So that's kind of my advice and missteps. The other is follow the rules. As working in a bureaucracy, there are rules. Some of them go all the way to law. Some of them are policy. Again, if you're looking at proposals and things like that, follow the. Again, where I've seen missteps with folks is they just didn't pay attention to some of those details. So pay attention. So my thoughts.
Thank you for that advice, Bill. A question from the audience that came in is, are there ways to work with or partner with the Air Force that don't involve formal contracting?
Sure. And that's a cooperative research and development agreement. It's a different authority than a contract. We have a standard template, which the bulk of it was written for lawyers written by lawyers for lawyers. What really you're going to be developing is sort of the terms of the agreement or the statement of work. But there's a huge flexibility under these agreements. And this is where, for example, maybe you want to work directly with one of our researchers on the base. Maybe you want to jointly run some experiments. Maybe you want to share data. These agreements create the a legal framework to be able to do that. And they also provide the legal framework for the management of intellectual property and protection of intellectual property. Again, you can reach out to my team. We can get you with a tech transfer specialist to do an agreement like a CRADA. If you're in academia, a what I'll call a variation of that is an educational partnership agreement. In those cases, they're a little more broad, a little more driven to the way academia works. Again, great way to partner with the Air Force. And then there's other forms of that. So again, if there's something you really want to do with us and work collaboratively, one of the other things on CRADAs is you can actually pay the government to maybe conduct a test. And I've seen companies use that in the past that sometimes in partnerships, the government team can do it as part of the partnership. Sometimes they've got to recoup the costs of things, and CRADAs can be a mechanism to do that. What you cannot do in a CRADA is the government fund you. That is a contract.
Well, thank you, Bill. I think we're starting to reach the end of our time here. So maybe any thoughts you wanted to share, any final parting thoughts you wanted to share, and then I think Anissa is going to join us here in a second as well.
Okay, well, one, it's been really phenomenal working small business, especially in the Dayton area in the state of Ohio. And if you're calling in from somewhere else, I've worked with teams in Rome and Albuquerque and across the way. So, I love working with small businesses. I will miss that part of the job, but I'm looking forward to new adventures with my wife and in retirement, and doing some other cool things. Um, and the other piece of advice is there's a great team I'm leaving behind. Folks like Anissa, Bruce Miller. You met Terry Cunningham. You've met some of the others in Startup Week. Please work with them. They will carry on the work and the tradition and help you. So that's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you, Bill. And again, we really appreciate you joining us today. So for everybody that's watching right now, again, we want to thank you all for joining us. We recognize this isn't the normal. We're excited for next year where we can be back together and in person. We do want to thank all the volunteers that came together to make this event possible. As well as the sponsors for the today's event, which include JJR Solutions, Tangram Flex, and IMS. So from myself, really appreciate everybody joining. Hopefully this was valuable. I know I learned a lot. Anissa, do you want to share final thoughts or one piece of wisdom that you really pulled from today? And Anissa, I think you may be muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so today, I mean, it was really exciting because it really brought home all of the various defense innovation that we have going on and all of the resources that are available for small businesses in the various 8 stages that you may be in. So I thank you. I thank all of the participants. I especially would like to thank Launch Dayton and Techstars. Audrey Ingram has done a great job all week putting all of this together and kind of rounding up everybody throughout the week for the last few months and planning this. So great job to Audrey Ingram with Launch Dayton. And thank you to Techstars and Launch Dayton and John Owens for putting this together every week. It's always a pleasure working with you, Ryan. And, one thing that, whenever I go to an event with you, I'm always looking forward to one of your awesome or really bad dad jokes. Do you have any of those for us today before we leave for the day?
Of course I do. Of course I've got a bad dad joke. So a question for everybody is, how do penguins build houses? They have to igloo it together. That's right. It's that terrible. They don't get any better. So maybe on that note, I again want to thank everybody. Please join us here at 3 o'clock for the T3 Accelerator demo day. very excited to see what they've done through that program and the companies that have gone through it. I think that's all I had. Thank you, everyone.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.